I first noticed it on Tuesday. It was a normal day. Nothing surprising. I was returning home from work, standing at the crossroads near the old pharmacy and waiting for the green light. And suddenly I realized that something was missing. At first I couldn't figure out what exactly. And then I realized. There was no coffee shop on the corner. I stood there every day. It was small, with a green canopy and the smell of cinnamon. The sign is a little crooked. The door creaked. I even knew the barista. Her name was Mel. And now there was just a wall. No signs of the door. Without a sign. As if it never existed. I stood on the sidewalk and stared at the bare brick, feeling strange dizziness. I thought I had forgotten something. But not what, but a whole place. I went to the phone, opened the cards. Nothing. No coffee shop. Just a house. That evening I thought I was overworked. The next morning I took a different route. Just to check. I wanted to pass by the cinema. Old. Single room. With a neon sign that didn't work half the time. My brother and I went there when I were kids. I turned the corner and stopped. He wasn't there. There was an empty fence in its place. Behind him is a wasteland, with weeds and old plastic bags stuck in the grass. I stood and looked at the ground where the cinema was supposed to be. I knew where the door was, where there were popcorn machines, where the tickets were sold. But now there was nothing there. And then I felt fear for the first time. Not sharp. Don't panic. Quiet. One that sits somewhere deep and does not move. I wrote to a friend. Do you remember the cinema on Elm Street? He answered in a minute. Which movie theater? I thought he was joking. Called. Well, Old Man, I said. The one where we went to watch horror movies. Pause. Dude. He said slowly. We've never had a movie theater. I laughed. Nervous. We watched that movie there. Well, with that, remember? But I suddenly couldn't remember the name. And that was the worst. Because I remembered how we Saturday. I remember the smell of popcorn. I remembered the cold from the air conditioner. But I didn't remember any specific details. As if the memory began to be erased from the edges. That night I went to the city without a purpose. Just skated. I wanted to make sure it was all in my head. And the first 20 minutes were like that. Everything seemed normal. Until I drove past the park. And I realized that he was smaller. Did not disappear. Not lost. Smaller. The fence was closer to the road. The trees were denser. The children's playground almost rested against the fence. I parked and got out. I stood at the entrance and looked inside. I went here with my mother when I was a child. There was a large field here. Fountain in the middle. Treadmill. Now the path broke off a few dozen meters away. There was no fountain. As if someone took the city and cut off a piece. I started taking pictures. It was instinctive. I didn't know why. I just felt it was necessary. I took a picture of the park. Wasteland instead of cinema. The wall where the coffee shop was. And went home. The next morning I opened the gallery. And it took my breath away. The photo of the park was normal. But he was bigger. There was a fountain in the photo. The track went on. The trees stood less often. I looked out the window. And then again in the photo. It's like it was filmed in another city. Then I understood. It's not just a disappearance. The city was changing. And not gradually. Every night. I started taking notes. Day 1, the coffee shop disappeared. Day 2 is the cinema. Day 3, the park became smaller. I set the alarm for 3 a.m. I don't know why it's this hour. It just seemed right. That night I woke up from silence. You know, there is silence that sounds louder than noise, as if something had held my breath. I lay in the dark and listened. And then I heard. Hum. Very quiet. Far. It's like a huge engine running somewhere. I went to the window. And froze. Something was moving on the horizon. Not light. Not a shadow. The dark line. She slowly approached, as if the edge of darkness had moved forward. And when she touched the houses on the outskirts, the light there just went out. No explosion. No sound. Just disappeared. I don't remember how I fell asleep. I went there in the morning. On the outskirts. Where were the houses yesterday? There was a field. Just a field. And a sign on the road that lay in the grass. The name of the district was written on it, but the letters were faded. It's like he's been there for years. I started asking people. At work. In the store. At the neighbors. Don't you notice that the city is changing? Everyone looked at me strangely. One woman said, "The city has always been like that." And that scared me more than anything. Because she wasn't lying. She really thought so. That evening I opened the old boxes. I found photo albums. And sat on the floor. On the first pages, the city was large. Many streets. Bright buildings. Fountain in the park. But the further I scrolled, the smaller it became. In the newer photos, some places were no longer there. As if reality itself rewrote the past. I found one strange thing. Photo taken a year ago. On it, I stood near the sign population, 32,140. I decided to check. Went to the entrance to the city. The sign was there, but now it was written on it. Population, 18,906. I took a picture of her. My hands were shaking. I didn't sleep that night. I was sitting by the window, and I waited. At 3:12 I heard that hum again, louder this time, and I saw her, the dark line. She moved slowly but inexorably, like a tide, only black, and when she touched the buildings, they just were erased, as if someone was running a rubber band through reality. And then I realized one more thing. She moved to the center, to me. I started to panic. I was packing. Documents. Laptop. Photo. I decided to leave the city. At night. While there is still somewhere. I got in the car and drove to the road. And I'm almost gone. But when I arrived at the exit, there was no road. She just broke into the darkness. It's like the city ended there. Physically. Like the edge of the card. I returned home on autopilot. And then I thought for the first time, maybe I don't have to leave. Maybe I should watch. The following days I hardly went out. The city became smaller. The shops closed and then disappeared. The streets were broken. The houses stood closer to each other. People didn't notice. Or pretended. I didn't know what was worse. And then I noticed something else. On new photos. Where I photographed the city. Sometimes a silhouette was visible. Far away. On the edge of the frame. High. Dark. It's like someone is standing where the world ends. I enlarged the photo. And regretted it. Because it wasn't a shadow. It was looking straight into the camera. I'm making the last recording now. The city became very small. I can walk it in an hour. The sign at the entrance now says, population, 1,204. And I'm afraid to check again. I'm not sure I want to know the new number. The darkness is near. I hear a hum even during the day. And you know what's the worst? I began to forget. Street names. Places. People. Sometimes I look at the house and don't remember if it was here yesterday. I think I understood what it was. The city is not shrinking. It's being erased. Slowly. Carefully. As if someone wants no one to notice. If you are reading this, and if your city seems a little smaller than you remember, check the old photos. Look at the sign with the population. And if the numbers don't match, don't look at the horizon at 3 in the morning. Because if you see the edge, he's already moving. And the next city will not disappear. And the memory that it existed at all